Right now, let's bring in a good buddy of mine, Nile Lawrence-Stample, of course, a former national champion with the Florida State Seminoles, also played in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns, and is a business owner locally here in Duval. What do you say now?
Yeah, man, I'm having a good day. The weather's good. Can't complain too much.
It's actually it's chilled out the last 2 days.
Yeah, it was random. I came outside today and I was like, holy smokes, it feels pretty good. It's
Yeah.
been so hot.
I want to ask you as a defensive lineman, because things around here with the Jaguars the last several years has been kind of bizarre. I mean, going back to Todd Wash and Gus Bradley, the Leo and the Otto, and standing guys up, then Mike Caldwell, the 3-4 defense. I watched practice with former head coach Dave Campo of the Dallas Cowboys on Tuesday over at the Miller Electric Center, and he gives me an elbow and he goes, "How great is that? 4 hands in the dirt, a true 4-3 style of defense that's going to be run here by the Jacksonville Jaguars." As a defensive lineman and a guy that did multiple defenses in college and also what you did with the Cleveland Browns, what do you think of the 4-3?
I think the 4-3 is really a true 4-3, like he said, when those hands are in the dirt. I feel like it's very versatile for those defensive ends to be able to move when their hands aren't in the dirt, but really being able to take on that run attack is huge when that leverage is already low. You're starting low, so you're able to really take those attacks on a lot better. So I think it kind of inhibits you to be able to really shift and move, but it really makes the foundation of this front line solid.
The Jaguars gave up, I believe on average, I want to say like 40 more yards a game against the run in like their final 7 or so contests. So you go back and look at the numbers. They really did a nice job defending the run in the midst of their 8-3 start. Then it got away from them. Hand in the dirt, for someone who doesn't know the game like you, who obviously played it, I would think hand in the dirt gives you a better sense of defending the run as opposed to standing up, but maybe not as much push getting towards the quarterback. Am I wrong by saying that?
I think I think you can really be extremely aggressive on the pass rush, just like you can in the run with the hands in the dirt. I think when you're looking at your standing up or having your defensive end stand up, you're giving them more of an opportunity to be able to drop back, or you're looking, giving them a better opportunity as like a game or something, or a defensive end being able to pinch inside and not have that defensive tackle wrap. I think when everyone's hands in the dirt, you're able to have those defensive ends come out low and be able to really fly and get after the quarterback with their ears pinned back. So I think regardless if their hands are in the dirt or if they're up, they can really attack the quarterback or attack the run.
All right, when you were always you were inside, so you had your hand in the dirt, but just being a part of either a 3-4 or a 4-3, when you did stunts or things along those lines, did you find it more successful with the guys next to you, whether they had the hand in the dirt or stood up, or is that really irrelevant?
I don't know. In terms of the games, I think it's a little bit easier if they're able to put their hands in the dirt if they're pinching inside, just because you're really able to push off. But when you're doing a game to where he has to potentially fake and drop back and then come in, it's probably a little bit easier to stand up. But being able to have that versatility of being able to have your hand in the dirt some plays, standing up some plays, throws that offensive tackle and helps kind of disguise some of the things that you're doing. So I think it's good for us to have that foundation and potentially have some variations throughout the game.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be out there on Monday, get an opportunity to watch them practice again at the Miller Electric Center. We know how successful Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker were, but the interior only had 3 sacks.
Yeah.
And the backups, the backup rush ends, only had 3 sacks.
Yeah.
6 sacks outside of what you got from Walker and Allen. You can't have that again if you want to be a playoff team here.
You cannot. You have to be able to spread that load. And you have some of that being as in terms of the defensive back room, you have to have a little bit more coverage going on there in order to give our defensive tackles a little bit more time. I'm always going to kind of be their advocate just because I know how it is in order to be able to attack that quarterback from the inside. You're dealing with a lot more going on in there. But we definitely have to be more precise when it comes to getting after the quarterback in there and seeing if we can maybe mix some things up this year.
Now, Lawrence-Stample, our guest, of course, he played his college ball at Florida State, won a national title, also went on to play for the Cleveland Browns. Florida State, Notre Dame, November 9th, 7:30 at night.
That's going to be an awesome game. That's going to be you talk about one of those games that it's got to be turned on. We are going into the Lions' den, especially Notre Dame. Their fan base really wants to get after Florida State anytime we play them. So especially it's a little bit of payback now. So we're going to be going into their territory. I'm looking forward to this game. And I think a lot of our guys are going to be ready to take that on. It's going to be a historic game just because obviously playing them is always something like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing it, man.
I mean, it's months away. I saw something the other day. I think we're like 90, maybe 89, 90 days officially away from the start of college football. But when you're going through the offseason, you're sweating and you're working out and you're thinking about the schedule ahead, did you circle a game this far out where you're like, oh, man? I mean, in this case, at Notre Dame at 7:30 at night, was there a game or two like that where you was like, hey, I mean, when that gets here, that is going to be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, so other than the Notre Dame game, which I think that's going to be obviously it's prime time, 7:30. It's going to be kind of the night under the lights. I can't wait for it. Not traditionally regularly, but this year in particular, I'm ready for this Miami game. We're going to Miami to go play them, and Miami is looking to have a fairly great season. They're stacking their depth as well as obviously the showcase that they had last year showed a lot of promise. I think they made it supple. They fumbled a little bit, but I think that they're going to come out hot and heavy. And if we go down to Miami and do not have a great showing, it could be a tough game. So I am circling that on the calendar. I'm ready for it, and it's going to be one of those Miami FSU games.
Yeah, the second half of the schedule was really interesting for Florida State. On October 5th, they host Clemson. You know, they're going to want payback. Yes. They get a week off before going to Duke. Manny Diaz, now the coach there, a Florida State grad, a guy who I worked with in the media for a couple of years before he became a graduate assistant at Florida State. Chuck Amato took him to NC State, and we've seen what his career has been like ever since then. The game you just mentioned at Miami. Then you have North Carolina, at Notre Dame, Charlie South, and then Florida. I mean, that is you got your two major rivals plus North Carolina and at Notre Dame the last month of the year.
Yeah, and you know NC State plays, it's at North Carolina, they play us hard every single time we play them. So it's going to be a tough back end, and that's where the depth comes into play. That's where we have to make sure, and that's where sometimes when you're watching a game and you're seeing the coach put that backup in, you're like, why is he in? These are the games why we're putting him in. It's because when we can, we have to make sure our depth are getting quality reps, not just regular reps, quality reps, in order for them to be able to be ready to take on some of those reps when we get later on in the season.
The 5 games that have been announced as far as the time so far for Florida State, we know they open up against Georgia Tech in Dublin. That'll be noon our time on August 24th. Then it's a Monday night home opener against BC at 7:30. I believe that's Labor Day evening. The week after, the 14th, Memphis comes in a noon start. It's tough at times for the fans to get up for a non-Power 5 football team. We understand that this is where Mike Norvell was before he came to Florida State. What were those noon games like?
The noon games, I have my own podcast, and obviously where I put a lot of this on there, Nole'n with Nile, but on Nole'n with Nile on Instagram, I literally just put up a post of me being able to make a really good play in the backfield during a noon game playing Louisville. I will say that a noon game is super hot. But it has got to be one of the best games for the players. The players are able to come in. We're really energized and ready to go. Sometimes it's hot, but like when you're playing an 8:00 game and you are preparing that day, it becomes a very long day. You're at the hotel, you're hanging out all day, you're waiting for this game to happen.
Yeah.
But a noon game allows you to get after it the second that you wake your eyeballs up, because you go in, you have your meetings, and then you go straight to the stadium. You start to see your fans, and the fans are typically responsive. It is a phenomenal opportunity to be able to play a noon game with great weather in Doak Campbell Stadium.
Yeah, we talked about Notre Dame. The other game that's been announced, not in favor of this, I think Friday should be for high school football, but Friday, October 18th at Duke, Florida State at Duke on a Friday night at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun, and obviously we don't play a lot of those games, so I think it's it throws the schedule off a little bit, just because as you're preparing, the coaching staff, at least when I was there, the coaching staff gets very jittery because they're like, all right, we have to get ready, we have to get ready. This is not our normal schedule, so they want to make sure that these players aren't forgetting anything and aren't doing anything the wrong way or anything like that, because it could affect the actual gameplay. So those weeks are very weird, especially when it comes to Thursday games. So I'll be looking forward to that. It'll be fun to watch.
No doubt about it.
Friday Night Lights.
The interesting road games at SMU, at Duke, at Miami, at Notre Dame, and of course they open up in Dublin against Georgia Tech. Talking with the former Florida State Seminole national champion Nile Lawrence-Stample. All right, you and I have had plenty of conversations about all of the players that they lost, both offensively and defensively. Give me a Nile Lawrence-Stample breakout player in 2024 for the Noles.
Okay, so not being biased or anything, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Joshua Farmer, especially with me and how when I break down and I'm watching the actual game in real time, I'm looking at what players are coming in. I'm looking at what players are substituting and being the backup and being not just a backup, but being the support to some of these other players. And we've seen Joshua Farmer being able to come in and back up Brandon and back up some of these other high caliber players. And it's awesome to watch, but I've seen Joshua Farmer slowly progress, and I've talked to Odell Higgins about him, and it is an awesome situation that he's coming into. He is going to be that guy, and I think he's going to respond really well. I think he's really strong. He's really athletic. He has great footwork for his size, and I think he's going to be able to get after it, especially in the backfield where he likes to stay a lot of the time. And then obviously Daryl Jackson. I don't want to not mention him. He's one of those players that. So Giorgio Newberry was a 6'6" big guy. He's just bigger. That's the same vibe I get from Daryl Jackson. He's not necessarily big in terms of weight. He's not the super tall, but he is just a very big person. And I think that that's going to help him in his pass rush as well as being a dog inside when it comes to the run. So I'm super excited to watch him. I think Joshua Farmer is going to have a phenomenal year. I think he's going to really have the year that he wants. And I think Daryl Jackson's going to be right next to him eating it up.
Josh Farmer took a lot of snaps away from Lovett last year. He really did. And you look at that line, including losing, Verse and Fisk. A lot of people believe Patrick Payton, Josh Farmer, Daryl Jackson, Marvin Jones Jr., dare I say, better than last year's front four.
That's going to be interesting. And so you can have these perspectives and people will think what they want, but it's one thing to look at it and then it's another thing to actually execute it. I think that they can execute it at a high level. It's just going to be able to put the pieces together throughout the season, because every single game is going to be a little bit of a nuance that they realize and they start to fix. And as you gel throughout the season, sometimes there's magic that's made on the field.
All right. Of course, they run the 4-2-5 there. They've added a few linebackers as of late, and the 5 in the defensive backfield for Mike Norvell and Florida State. Nile Lawrence-Stample. You're a busy guy. Tell us about NLS Cleaning. What's the latest?
Yeah, man. So like I said, again, follow us on NLS Cleaning on Instagram as well as Facebook. Continuing to push that. Spring has been super busy. We've been really, really happy just because of the support in Jacksonville. And when you do a good job and you make great relationships with people, people really spread the word. So it's been awesome for us to be able to spread across Jacksonville and work with different companies and different real estate groups and different homeowners just to keep their places clean and get them clean. And then another thing I want to say is just I am on Instagram at Nole'n with Nile. I'm talking a lot about current players. I'm talking about some of the former players as well, but just keeping up to date with what's going on and how you can kind of see Florida State currently at a different perspective, just because I was there and it was an amazing time and I took it in, and now I'm able to kind of talk about it on the back end. I'm loving every second of it.
There he goes, Nile Lawrence-Stample. Always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Rick. You as well.
All right, there you have it.